What's going on, traders? It's your boy Matt back at it again with another daily recap video of the $2,000 small account challenge that I've been doing for the last 4 days. And today, as you can see, I am at $700. The account is almost at $5,000. Remember, I started with 2,000 about 4 days ago. Today, I took about seven or so trades. Let's just go one by one on them and I'll explain what I was thinking. So the first trade that I took was NAV. NAV was a pre-market gapper, so it actually went up pre-market. I had a starter short here just before market open, which was not okay because sometimes things could change market open. There might be a surge of buyers. And then I had an ad somewhere there, and I covered it here. The reason why I covered this is because as you'll be able to see the video, but here around like $42, $42.10, $42.20, there was a lot of big buyers. They were soaking up a lot of volume there. People were selling into it, but there was a hidden buyer. Someone was buying a lot of shares around that number. So that made me a little bit uncomfortable, because what happens usually is when there's a soaker, it means manipulators, buying up, trying to rip it up. So I got up pretty quick for a $5 trade, so that's okay. The next trade was YTEN. The market was really quiet, I took a lot of trades that were not per se my strategy, so that's why some of the trades are pretty terrible. Alright, so YTN, what happened was the same thing, pre-market gapper, and when it opened, I started shorting this top area, risking that, the $8 area. 870 was my risk level. So if it came up and broke that high, I would have taken my loss and would have walked away. But what I was doing was I was shorting this area. Every time it popped, that area was a short, risking off that, and cover into the bottoms. So cover the bottoms, short the tops, right? Don't touch anything in between. That's when you get chopped up and you have a shitty average. So take a sit back, wait for the chart to develop, and then take your position. And if you're a long bias trader, always buy the bottoms and sell the tops. Don't try to buy this breakout over the VWAP and all that bullshit, because it just doesn't work. But the reason why you want to buy, you want to sit back and wait until it gives you a good entry point here at the bottoms, is because even if you bought here and the thing goes further, your risk level is limited, right? Your risk level is here, and you're using support and resistance levels, which means these levels are proven by the chart to you that it actually respects it. As you can see, every time it pops to that level, it pulls back down. Every time it gets to this level, it goes back up. So these are the numbers that you want to use to make these kind of calls, right? Some people would buy here at a VWAP area and be like, oh, I'm gonna risk 10 cents. That kind of trading won't work, because the stock, as you can see, is in the channel, and it does not respect those kind of price actions. It does not respect your 10 cents. But what you want to do is you want to take a general area where the stock has previously supported, the stock price action actually respected. So you don't want to come up with your own number. You want to let the chart dictate what a support and resistance level is. As you can see on this particular trade, I made $250, which is an okay trade. The next one is NLS. This is another shitty trade where I took that completely is not my strategy. The reason why I took this is, though some might say this is parabolic, in my opinion, since it has a lot of pullbacks, I wouldn't consider this parabolic, and it's followed by a lot of massive volume. Anyway, so I had a short starter there, a pullback down. I had a starter here around, what was my average? If you can see, 1633. So 1633 is right there. That was where my average was. I shorted that. It gave me like a 30 cents profit to the 16 area. I didn't take it, but the way it got put up and the way it's holding VWAP, as you can see, just like if you draw a line here, it's really holding this area. Made it very uncomfortable, so I got out for a $15 profit, but I shouldn't get into this trade to begin with. The next trade that I took was IPOB. And this trade, similar thought. It went parabolic. Now this from pretty much 1180 area to 1330 and two candles, almost like a parabolic. I mean, a parabolic in my opinion. Anyway, so what I did with this was I shorted the tops, and every time it gives me a pullback, like a decent 70 cents. I mean, this thing from 1320 pullback all the way to 1240. So when it gave me this 60, 70, 80 cents pullback, I always take half or some sort of profit. So I was shorting that, and I was covering this. As you can see, VWAP is right there as well. That's the faint yellow line. So I was covering that every time it popped short here. But my risk level was always breaking the highs. If it broke the highs and go higher, I would have cut my loss, right? And then I would let it go higher, reassess, and when you see weakness on a level 2, you reshort again. So not only the chart that I'm dependent on the level 2 and the time and sales print. Which way is the wind blowing? Do you see weakness and all of that? And I'll make a video about reading level 2. So in this particular trade, I'm pretty sure I went in several times. I got on top. So short the tops, cover the bottom, don't touch the middle part, right? So on that one, I made $225. The next trade that I took today was RDFN. So RDFN pretty much it was so it was this parabolic move right here. I mean, I shorted this thing. I mean, if you could look at my average, is 54.20 is my average. So 54.20 would be somewhere down here. So this was where my average was, which is short in the top. So when you're talking about the top and covering the bottom, you're not talking about a particular price. You're talking about a general area, right? A general. If I had a bigger account, I would have laced this area. What it means is I would have had several short entry points here, risking the highs, and then cover the bottoms, right? But in this case, I was only I had a starter somewhere here, I'm pretty sure, and I added somewhere here, and my average was there. And this gave me, I mean, from 54.20, it went all the way to 51.60. So it gave me $2 plus on this thing, but I only managed to make $82 on it. So I mean, what happened with this is I had 200 shares. I covered some here, which was a mistake again. And the other one is I was trying to cover half right there. You'll be able to see the video, but I covered everything. And once it's down here, you can't really chase it because there's a chance it might put a support level on a VWAP and bounce higher. Now you shorted here, now you're upside down and you're losing. So I didn't chase this down. If something goes without you, never chase, let it go. The next trade that I took was RCL. So in this trade, I made 82 RCL. Let's see RCL. All right, RCL pretty much is this parabolic move. RCL, the same thing. If you can look at my actual average price that I had was 60.22. So 60.22 is literally pretty much the TP top right here. That was my average. Again, this went all the way to 58. So it gave about $2 per share profit, right? But I only managed to make I made only $45, which is really, really bad because I didn't hold. I should have held. This is what I mean. Today, the market was very, very, very quiet, and there was a lot of trades that were popping on the scanner, but I look at them, it's not my kind of strategy, or it kept going higher and stuff like that. So, so I was a little bit on the cautious side, and I took a lot of them pretty early. So I missed $2 per share profit on this. I made 45. The next trade and the last trade that I took for the day was PTON. Right here, PTON. All right, PTON. What happened was I shorted only 50 shares on this thing. So I shorted 50 cents at 95.20 right here, right there, 95.20. And I took, as you can see, I took it at 93.70, the closing price. Opening price was there, my average, and then closing price was right there at 93.70. So let's find 93.70, which is right there. So pretty much almost a $2 move with 50 shares. I took half somewhere in between. That's why it's not, with 50 shares, $2, should have been $100, but $72 because I took 25 shares somewhere halfway through. But that was it, and Now you guys will be able to see the actual trading videos and learn a little bit from it. My mistakes were, I'm leaving a lot of money on the table. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Alright guys, as you can see, market just opened, and I'm down currently $49 or on a NAV. It's not per se a good trade because I should have waited until market open to short this. But the fact that this thing just came up, from $36 to $42, I'm assuming it would have some sort of pullback. My risk level is that high of the day pretty much. If it had a broken high of the day and got, went higher, I would have gotten out. As you can see here, I added another 100 shares. The reason why I added that 100 shares is because it looks like it is topping out. There's a chance it might pull up. But still, I'm closely watching that $43 level, because if that breaks and gets going, then I don't know how high this could potentially go. For that reason, I have that as a solid risk level that I'm playing off. And I'm hoping this thing would break that VWAP. As you can see, that VWAP support. So as long as this thing is above VWAP, it means the average buyer is in the money. So it could support and go higher. So I'm hoping this thing breaks VWAP and wash out. So I'm just gonna fast forward here to get to the point where I'm start covering. But so far, even though it's getting sold, that 4210 area, 4220 area, it's really holding solid. VWAP is holding as a resistance level. As you can see on the time and sales print, a lot of red prints are gone, but the price is not dropping. This 20 right here, see 20, how it refresh? This is called refreshing. So the price, it's getting sold into, but there's a hidden big buyer at 4220. As you can see, a lot of 4220s going through, which means a lot of people selling into that, but that guy is buying. Now it dropped, but I should have covered some here, but watch it pick it back up again. So it's at 10, 11 at the moment. But this is a typical action where there's a hidden buyer and they hold it above VWAP, so they don't let it drop, they don't let it flush. Whoever's selling, they soak it up. So they soak up all the sellers get bought up. And then once all the sellers are out of the way, this thing can potentially, go higher. So I'm a bit. This makes me a bit nervous in terms of a short seller. This is the kind of action you don't want to see. So 42 now, it's a good sign, but let's see. So what you don't want to see here is this price. I'm looking at the time of sales now. It cracked. Now cracked VWAP, which is a good sign. What you don't want to see here is this being quickly bought up. If it gets quickly bought up from a washout like that, it means the buyers are still in play. See, I should have taken some here, but I didn't. I took some off. I'm only holding 100 shares at the moment. I was in 200 before. So let's see what happens. Now I'm putting an order to cover, but nothing happens. It went up too quickly. So as you can see, it's back to 4210. And now I'm trying to cover here. Nothing. It doesn't feel me. I got out. So I got out of that position for a $5 profit, which is terrible because the way that 4210 held, the soak up was an indication I should have gotten out earlier. Now let's get into the next trade. This stock was a pre-market gapper. Now it's halted. As you can see, it's halted at the open out of the halt. So I'm short here, thinking it would wash out, but rather it went up. It just went up. I'm holding. So my risk level here is again high of the day, that $9.20, $10 area. So it washes out. I'm watching. So I'm in 300 shares. I'm instantly up. 60, 70 bucks. I'm hoping this thing would go back to the $6. So with this kind of plays, the smartest thing to do is if you short, as soon as the price drop, to quickly cover half or something, because what happens usually is it pops back up. So the stock market is, think of it as a spring. If you pull it one way, then it gets pulled back from the other side. So if a price action goes dramatically in a short period of time in one direction, then it's natural for the stock to pull the opposite direction. So as you can see here, it just dropped massively from 840. It's about done. So you see how I covered half there? I covered half there. Now I'm only holding 150 shares. I covered half for, I was up 300. I covered half of it for $150 profit. Now I'm holding still half of the shares. The reason why I'm holding is I want to see this thing go lower. Let's just fast forward in this. Now this is another trade, well, the same trade I covered. So remember how I had 150? I covered the 50 already. This thing went up to the previous high. I'm just skipping because it took a long time for it to go back up. And now it's downside hold again. Now it opened. I try to cover the 100 shares. So I covered 50 here. Now I have 50 shares left. I'm holding this 50 shares. So I started with 300. I covered 150 right at the bottom the first time it dropped. And then as it was going up, as you can see that tick, I covered 50. I let it go up. And then now it came back down. I covered half again. So I managed to stay patient. What I should have done is I should have added the 150, the first one that I took when it went back up. But I didn't do that because I didn't like the way it came back up. Now I'm still holding the half 50 shares, but this puts me $260 dollars up on the day. I'm still holding. So what happens is this area where it's at right now, the 715 area, is really supporting. The reason why I'm taking some shares if I'm not waiting for this thing to go back to the $6 or $5 area is because that area that I'm pointing out now is actually supporting. So what you want to do is every support level where the price action tends to bounce from, you want to take some profits in. If it goes lower, great. If it doesn't, then you're already locked in some gains. And you want to shorten the high areas where the stock is, kind of holding it as a roof, which is called the resistant levels. So now I'm just sitting and watching 50 shares. As you can see, the daily unrealized, that's fluctuates because that's the 50 shares. When the price goes up and down, it changes. But the daily realized, that is how much I have already locked into my account. So I'm just waiting and seeing what this is gonna do. I'm holding 50 shares, not a big deal, which means if this thing goes $1, I would only be up or down $50, which is not a problem because I've already locked in a lot of the gains, which is $250 almost. So this is gonna keep going up like this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fast forward a little bit here, just to, for time's sake. So as you can see, it did bounce from that level. I added here. Remember, I had 50 shares. Now I added. So what I'm doing here is I'm shorting the tops and I'm covering the bottoms, making a profit of the difference, right? So I had 50 shares. Now I added them. My average is, as you can see, is $7.93 with 100 shares. So the reason why I'm going, very small amount of shares is because I'm doing this small account challenge. I only got $4,000 in my account. So the way you have to trade is you have to be very cautious about the amount of shares that you're going. You don't want to go 1,000, 2,000 shares because if something goes up $1 on you, then you just have to your bank account. So the way you grow a small account is by playing a small, going a smaller share size, but a bigger range, right? So those, $200, $300 gains quickly add up as the day goes on. So as you can see, I shorted the top again, which I should have done in that middle part. Now I'm just waiting for it to pull back down so I can take some profit. Alright, this is another stock that I'm watching. Now, this just popped on the scanner. As you can see, this thing went from $12 almost to $12.70, $13. So what I'm thinking about this is I want to have start a short here if it comes to the 1280, 1290 area. So I'm just sitting back watching this and waiting for it. So as you can see, I just had a starter position, 300 shares at 1270. Yes, it could go up, but this is just a starter. So the higher it goes, the more I add, because as I said, if a price action gets stretched to one side dramatically, then it's natural for the stock to pull back the other way. So that's what I'm counting on. If this thing just goes up $1, $2 in 1-2 candles, or 1-2 minutes, then there's a chance it might pull back $1 or $50 50 cents. Opposite. So yeah, so basically, if something goes up dramatically to one side, there's a chance it would pull back to the opposite side. As you can see here, pretty much doing so here. As you can see, I'm only having a starter share size, but every time it gives me a pullback or a flush down, then I'm locking in those profits with my starter shares. I would have liked this to go higher, so I could add it to my full size, but that's part of the game. Sometimes you only have a starter share size, and then the stock doesn't really give you a chance to add. So I covered 100 here. I'm assuming this could go lower. That's why I didn't take 150 rather than I just took 100. I hope this thing goes higher and gives me a better entry point. So basically, this is gonna keep going on where I'm short in the top and covering the bottom. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fast forward here. So as you guys can see here, this thing popped up and it gave me the ad that I kind of was looking for. Even though I was a little bit slow in shorting, I got around $13. Should have done 13.30, 13.20, that higher area. It's pulling back down now. It took a little bit there. So as you can see here, this was what I was looking for. This is why I wanted the push to the 13.30, 13.20 areas so that I could cover into this washout, which I did here. I'm only holding 100 shares now. So at some point I had about 600 or 400 shares. I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward it here. So right here, as you can see, I'm trying to cover the last one, and this is exactly why I wanted that 13.30, 13.20 areas, because I wanted to cover into this washout. And as you can see, I'm only holding 100 shares. It's kind of pushing up a little bit here, but that's fine. I mean, I should have covered that 46 when it gave me. It did come and touch me, but I didn't have my order out. So the lesson here is have your order out, have your fantasy orders out, so that way, so I just added a short into that, so now I'm holding 200 shares. So that way, if you have your fantasy orders out where you want to cover, when a stock suddenly drops, what happens is it would automatically fill you. You don't, fumble around trying to get to, trying to put in your order. So the trade here for me is pretty much like to short that, 13, 13.20 area, risking up to 13.40 area, and cover with a dollar drop that bottom 12.40 area. That's what I've been doing. I've always have my set risk levels. You have to have your set risk levels where if the stock goes above that, you gotta cut it. So as you can see, I'm adding here and I'm holding 300 shares. The stock is pushing. I'm okay with that as long as it's within the risk level that I have in mind, which is that 13.40 area. And also, I'm closely watching this level 2. Level 2 is the main thing that I'm watching. And you know, how strong is it? As you can see, that 1325 area, you can see a couple of you know, sellers. You can see 2,000 shares. But if you're looking at on the bid side, there's nothing where it says 12.99. That's the bid side. There's not. I don't really see a solid buyer. The only solid buyer is sitting at 11.70, which is not a problem for me. So those are the things that I just glance at, look at, and kind of see. It looks like, you see how it looks like it's topping up here. And when it came up, it was a lot of green prints, but right now there's a lot of white prints, uh, and the white prints are something that prints in the middle, in between. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fast forward here to kind of show you guys, you know, where I covered. I'm currently in 600 shares. So right here, I'm still holding the 600 shares. I'm waiting for this to drop so that I could cover. I'm thinking about taking 200 here into this flash, only because for a small account, I don't like going 600 shares if I don't have to. So I'm putting my fantasy orders, which means I have my orders out. So if it suddenly drops, then it would automatically fill me the price where I want to fill at. So here I'm out. I got out 300 shares. So now I am holding 300 shares. I'm putting in the levels that I want to cover at. So I'm up almost $500 for the day, which is good, because you know, my aim for today is to get to $5,000. So tomorrow is Friday, and Friday goal is to get to $6,000, and then next week probably finish the week 10,000. So yeah. I'm just gonna fast forward here a little bit. This is another stock that just popped, hit the scanner, automatically quickly put it up, and I'm watching it. I want this thing to go a little bit more higher so I can have a starter. Remember, so if you're thinking about your maximum, let's say maximum share size is 1,000, then my starter is 300. So that way, you know, if thing goes up, you're giving yourself a lot of bullets to add. But if you just shorten 1,000 and this thing goes up, then you're in trouble. So you got to be able to average in and out of particular trades. So I'm trying to have a starter here. I just had a starter of 100 shares, as you can see. Because this is a $50 stock, this could easily reach to $60. So I don't want to have a, you know, for my account size, if this thing goes, you know, $5-6 against me on 300 shares, then I'm in trouble. So just have a starter 100 shares. I'm willing to add up 3 ads. So if you have a 300 starters, you can go up to 1,000 shares, which means you're added three times. For me, I started 100 shares, so I can have 3 ads up to 300 shares. I'm willing to play this particular trade 300 shares for my account size. Just fast forwarded here a little bit. I didn't add. I'm just waiting and seeing if this thing is going to drop. Here I have an ad here. The reason why I have an ad here is because if you can see the previous top right there, I'm risking that now. Now I have, previously when I had a starter, I didn't have a top level, right? I didn't have a set risk level. What I was playing off is the fact that it actually came up from $49 to $55, and I'm looking for weaknesses to just have a starter. But now it put a top in, I have a set risk to play this thing off of, right? Still, as you can see, this is a bad execution here. I took 100 shares off. I shouldn't have. The reason why I shouldn't have is because I had a set risk level and I was willing to lose that much, and I should have just stuck with it. But rather, I covered 100. Now I'm only holding 100 shares. Now, as you can see here, I'm trying to cover only 50 shares. I'm trying to cover 50, but I'm thinking this could potentially go to that 51 area. So I'm trying to cover 50 shares here and hold the 50 shares for longer. And as you can see, I'm up almost $530 on a day. That is good. So the way you want to aim for a small account is you want to lock in the small gains and compound. It's not one big trade. You're not looking to go 5,000 6,000 shares and hammer it. What you're looking to do is small but consistent gains, and they add up pretty quickly. So I have my half order out. I'm getting a little bit frustrated that it's not dropping and touching me. It's playing around my average. I'm up $50-$60 on it, which means I'm 50 cents, 60 cents per share up on that particular on this one here. As you can see here, I'm gonna put another order for 50 shares, which is a mistake. So I should have left the first one there, because it kept coming up to the 30 and not touching the 20. As soon as I put in the 50, or perhaps I should have canceled the other one, the 21. As soon as I put it, dropped and got me out. I only wanted to get out 50 here and hold the other 50 to the $51 area, but it got me all of my shares, and I'm up almost 600